Hi and welcome. It's Zoisa here, and today I'm really pleased to be joined by Sue Hitzmann, creator of the Melt Method. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you.
So I first met Sue in 2017 March. So wow, so many years ago. And somebody just showed me a small little melt ball. You can probably see my kit hanging back in Fabio the skeleton. And I was, there we go. Thank you, Sue. And I was hooked. I was in some training, learning about fascia and more about how the body worked and moved, and how misalignment of the body, and that's kind of alignment is my thing as a Pilates instructor then, how I can really support and assist people. And I loved your passion and your enthusiasm to really want to assist and help people, connect with their bodies, but also get out of pain and their ability to just move better and feel free. And for me, attention to detail and just being able to move better and feeling free is that's a game changer. And particularly once we've heard a little bit more about Sue and how she got into her kind of wanting to know more about the whys and hows of the body that led her to where she is now, we're also specifically going to be looking at the idea of growth and repair and strength. So once again, Sue, welcome. And do tell us a little bit about yourself. How did you get to where you are now?
A lifetime of investigation. That's how I got to where I am now. I've always been sort of obsessed or fascinated with the concepts of aging. Actually, maybe too young, I got into this fear of aging meant losing your mental faculties, losing your physical ability to move about. And I just remember my aunt, saying that about my great grandmother. She just got old. And I was like, am I going to get old? She said, yeah. I go, how do you stop that from happening? She's like, it's happening now. And it was like a meltdown at 11 that has just continued on for my lifetime. And I think back when I was young, the concepts of wellness was really more about fitness and Jack LaLanne, Jane Fonda, and exercising and eating right. That was really like the 101 of feeling good and keeping your resilience and living actively and well. And so I kind of bought into that, hook, line, and sinker, and got into the fitness industry. My very first legitimate job was as a group exercise instructor. And by my early 20s, I got a master's in physiology and anatomy. And during that time of my life, in my early 20s, I had sustained a lot of knee injuries and got into more physical therapy and like manual therapy, which was outside of the fitness industry. And I got introduced to Leon Chaitau's work of neuromuscular therapy. And it completely kind of shattered the foundations of the traditional concepts of anatomy, physiology, biology. And there was this concept of consciousness and our, light touch and all these things. And, it was like kind of mind blowing. And by the mid 90s, I thought I was like the smartest person on the human body. I was working with high performance athletes and people trying to get out and stay out of, injuries. And if they were injured, get them back out on the field faster. And one day I woke up and I had a pain on the bottom of my foot. And I thought, I must have stepped on a piece of glass. That literally was my thought. I stepped on a piece of glass. I'd never felt anything like it. I woke up with it. It didn't like creep up. It was just suddenly there. And I did what everybody does. I rested, I iced, I stretched, and nothing made a dent in the problem. And what started out as foot pain quickly grew into this body-wide ache and pain. I was fatigued, I was depressed, I was frustrated, I was going to doctors, MRIs, CAT scans. And I mean, I had like the gamut of people trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And it was everything from Parkinson's to lupus to fibromyalgia. Like they didn't know what it was. And what struck me was when one doctor said, well, it started out as plantar fasciitis. And I thought, fasciitis. So my fascia is inflamed. Well, there's no exercise for that. Like, how do you reduce inflamed fascia? I've never even heard of that. And back in the late 90s, that's when Google came up and I typed in fascia, and I found about 150 sites. A few of them were about the human body. And I started looking at research and just sort of stumbled upon this emerging field of neurofascial science and research. And it has just completely changed how I engaged both with my clients as well as my own body. And the real turning point for me was when 9/11 happened in New York City, which is where I live. I went from kind of seeing all athletes and high performance people and people who were exercising and had pain points to people who were having emotional trauma and physical issues like, COPD, lung issues and depression and, PTSD. And I was applying the same concepts of fascia and restoring this stability system of their body, regardless of what the trauma was in their body. It didn't matter where the origin was. It was an accident, illness, injury, heartbreak, the flu, whatever, that I just kept going after the same tissue. This fascial tissue sounded so relevant. And I have this knack of feeling fluid flow in the body and vibration and frequency. And it just, what started out as me just trying to get my clients out of my office faster turned into me taking that information and teaching people in group environments. And today, the MELT method is a simple self-care technique that has tools, and we have a on-demand app, and we've got thousands of instructors worldwide, 2 books, and here I am just continuing to help people get out and stay out of persistent pain problems and learn what the missing links are that diet and exercise just do not address, and to apply those into their daily lives so that they can lead a more active, healthy, pain-free life. And here I am.
Well, thank goodness for that pain in the foot.
You know what? I think pain's a motivator, right?
It is definitely. I mean, just in terms of the whole growth, repair, strength, we just grow. It's like you pop out, however you come out of the womb, and you just grow. It's like you don't have to think about, oh, I must take a moment and tell my bone to grow, or tell the skin to grow, or, tell this limb, grow more muscle. Oh, I've hurt myself, I've hit my foot, I've stubbed my toe, I've twisted my ankle. Things that we all do, I've cut myself, whether it's shaving or preparing vegetables. You don't then go, oh, okay, I just need to sit and,
I know, heal. Right?
Well, you can if you're kind of like Reiki, that's like a whole another fish. But it's something that automatically happens, and it's not until actually you don't heal or repair as fast as you would do, or particularly kids. So if you're a parent and you've got kind of 2 kids, or you're seeing your kids playing, you're like, well, either their growth isn't the same, whether it's their mental agility or whether it's their emotional growth. It's like, it's only when you're trying to compare it with something outside that you're like, oh, it's not the same, something's not quite right. Or if you're, as you were saying, an athlete, whether that's a young athlete, so, getting into the sports really early, and you're like, okay, I need to grow more muscle strength to build my stamina so I can kind of do that marathon, or it's actually a short, intensive race I'm doing. The body still needs to be able to strengthen in different ways. But I know that for me, what I first thought of strength, and I came in through the exercise fitness, into Pilates, then into body work, Reiki. So I came in through the energy field, Reiki, self-care, then into kind of massage fitness, and currently going through kind of kinesiology and looking at that whole Chinese medicine, and everything is vibration and everything is interconnected. And one of the challenges is helping people to realize that there are systems involved in our growth and our repair and the strength process that aren't just muscles.
Well, I mean, you nailed it, right? I mean, you said the one key factor is we understand that things are connected, but the question is, how are they connected, and what's connecting them? And is that thing that's connecting stuff important? And that's what's happened over the last, let's say, 50 years of inquiry, and really because science and technology are allowing us to really see cellular changes, right? We're now using these atomic force microscopy and micron microscopes to really look at the very inner aspects of our body, every cell, every molecule, every nerve, every blood vessel, to really define how each system works. But then, you know, with anatomy, that's what traditional anatomy does, is it cuts up all the stuff so that we can parcel it and make sense of it. But nobody really took the parts and then said, well, how are they all connecting? Because that's the thing about anatomy, again, is that it's talking about subsystems. But if you're talking about a living human body and how our body is living in the real time, that is a different model. And there are elements of our body that most people don't know anything about. And once you start understanding how things connect and how important the environment is that's connecting those things, you suddenly start looking at your body in an entirely different way. And also, you know, you had mentioned the things about how we act, perceive, and learn, right? Our own thoughts, our feelings, our behaviors are really affecting the stability architecture that is connecting things and has a significant influence on it, as much as that environment, when it isn't functioning well, also has a significant relationship to how we sense, feel, believe, act upon stimulus, and live. So it's a two-way street that if we took more time to understand how critical the environments were in our body that are supporting, protecting, and stabilizing us, and realizing that these systems are accessible, that you can actually learn to tap into them in a very unique and subtle body way. And when you do, it can literally transform every aspect of your health, not just your alignment, like you talked about, your posture, this macro idea, but if you bring the environment down to the cellular level and you're talking about growth, it all starts at the molecular level. It starts with our cells, it starts with atoms, it starts with neurons, it starts with glia. And the problem with that is that science is complex. And for me, I remember when I first started learning the science, it was dizzying complex. I mean, I was one of those kids that had to really study hard, but I was dedicated because I wanted to know. I wanted to understand it. And now my job has been to simplify that science so that anybody at any age can actually understand these systems, and you can translate it down to them so that they can take action. And that's really the important component, is that we want people to learn how to empower them to do things for themselves and not be beholden to the practitioners, to the gym, to the programs, but to actually know how to embody a practice that they can do anytime, anywhere, and actually help support the supportive systems of the body that keep us feeling vibrant, youthful, and healthy. And then again, we're not a victim to our aging process or our living process. And I think that's important for people to know.
Massively. And just in terms of that whole talking about the systems, and it's like, how is it all connected? For those people who are like, you know, what is it connected with? We've already spoken about it, but when you mentioned the fascia and that it is this kind of 3D fluid matrix. And for me, the important thing, one of the important things, as well as understanding that, and it'd be great for you to show some images if you've got those,
Sure.
is fluid water. Water kind of has memory, holes, can shift and change shapes. And it's much easier for things to kind of, it's like that communication process. Our ability to grow, heal, repair, get stronger, all of those innate communications happen through our endocrine system. And endocrine is your hormone and glandular system, for those of you that are unaware of that. And it basically is having a conversation. You have kind of leader of the band, hypothalamus at the top, and then it will send information to pituitary, pineal. But basically the hormone chemicals get sent out. So to tell your body, am I safe? Is this safe here? Is the food that I'm digesting, is that feel, is the environment, are these words that I'm thinking or somebody's saying it to me, is that a safe thing? Or does it mean that I need to increase my heart rate, get out of there because it's not safe? So whether you're feeling it, like you said, those vibrations, if everything's kind of chilled out and lovely, it's like there's a steady pulse and vibration to it. And then things, if you need to get going because you're in a race or active or just need to get out, then things will speed up. But that same kind of communication, we have our senses, so sight, sound, hear, touch, taste. But then there's that internal sensory mechanism. So it's like, what is the vehicle that travels through?
Yeah, well, that's it. Let me go ahead. I can share with you guys a little bit of science in a really simple way and give you guys something to chew on here. So let's see if you guys can see my screen. Hang on a minute. Let's see if it will screen share. Give it a second, maybe. Yeah. So the question here is, what is connective tissue? That's what you're asking, right? And so connective tissue is scientifically known as fascia. And fascia has been studied, it's been around forever. It's not like as if we don't know what it is, but connective tissue in a new idea is that it is your vehicle, what Ziza is talking about. It's a single most abundant material in your body is fascia, is connective tissue. And on an architectural level, it is the stability system of your body. Not just, when we say stability, I don't just mean your postural stability, emotional, chemical, neurological, every way that you could even think about stability, fascia is playing a role. Now, in the old views, it was kind of considered a packing material. It was like these inactive fibers. It was just passive cushioning, and it helped your muscles and bones. It gave you joint shock absorption. And the superficial layers that everybody wants to suck out of their bodies through liposuction, superficial fascia is where fat is there. That's where we have insulation and protection from the outside environment. And the traditional definition of fascia was that it was an elastic structure that created a virtual space between structures, giving each element of the body its definable shape. And so this is superficial fascia from Gil Hedley. This is these beautiful images of what the layer is just under your skin. I think it's amazing in this day and age, we still talk about the color of our skin, and we're all part of the human race, and once you remove that skin layer, we all look the same underneath. So it'd be nice if we could all just get along and love each other. But fascia in recent times has become actually a buzzword, especially in fitness, because of the concepts of myofascia and how fascia relates to our muscles. And fascia does create these kinetic chains, and it provides our self-movement and head-to-toe connections. And Tom Myers, these are some of Tom Myers' myofascial lines, which are also called myofascial meridians, these kinetic chains of fascial and muscle layers that bind together to maintain the fine balance of what I call your masses and spaces, your bones and your joints. And whether you're looking at your arms or the torso, those are there. But connective tissue is actually a missing link to every aspect of your health, how your pineal gland and your pituitary. If you really think about it, fascia is a glandular system. It's one big endocrine system that's putting all the endocrine components together. And the crazy thing about fascia is that it's actually transmitting vibration and energy down to the intracellular, meaning inside every cell, every molecule, and even your DNA is inherently linked to the fascial system. And when we were a developing baby, fascia was providing a map for your DNA to utilize to form fingers and toes, and a compartment for your liver and your lungs. And if you look at that top image up above, that's actually dark matter from the universe. And I always say that fascia is kind of like the dark matter of your body. It's the fabric that's holding everything together, but it's not just a fabric, it's a system. And the thing about fascia, and I love this image here, is that connective tissue is a three-dimensional fluid-based architectural matrix. Under your skin, it's supporting, protecting, and stabilizing all aspects of your body. It's not just stabilizing the common things that we're all familiar with, like your bones and your muscles, right? We're always talking about the posture, but every cell, every nerve, every blood vessel, every organ in your body is reliant upon this fascial system to function efficiently. So when you go down to the cellular compartments of fascia, fascia possesses more than just stability architecture for your muscles and bones. It's actually supporting your cellular development. So the functions of fascia, it establishes your structural framework for everything. It transports fluids, it dissolves material and waste, it transports nutrients to your cells. It's protecting your organs. It supports, surrounds, and connects everything. And of course, it does store energy, and that's fat. So it's actually really good at that, the superficial layers. It's very good at maintaining the fat there. But fascia is also helping us defend our body from microorganisms because it is part of the endocrine system. And it is the system that enables cellular growth and differentiation. This is how cells know that it's safe. The DNA, the way that the telomeres work on your DNA. Hey, if this cell is good, guess what happens to the cell? It duplicates, right? If the cell says this cell isn't good, the telomeres say, nope, no good. And guess what that's also called? It's called aging. It's called aging, right? So the big picture of fascia is that it's a three-dimensional system. It's shaped by the fascial network at every level of our body, from macroscopic to microscopic, from superficial to deep. Fascia is playing a major role in shaping the substances of our body. And here's the big kick, is that cells don't determine the form of the body. Our cells are shaped and molded by this extracellular matrix, this fascial system that they're embedded in. So all cells are sensitive to the environment that they live in, and it needs some kind of architectural support to live and function. And this new understanding, not only do cells need the right neural messages and the appropriate nutrient and peptides, but they also need a healthy mechanical environment to function in. And that's why the fluid flow of fascia is so important. So our cells, I always love showing this one. A cell is actually reacting to what's going on outside of the cell wall. And if the cell wall says, hey, the fluids outside of here are terrible, we shouldn't take it in, the nucleus signals to the mitochondria, says, hey, act upon it and protect me. And all of a sudden the cell wall changes. And it kind of creates in these cells, it actually creates kind of a ring around it, a protective ring. But here's the thing, a cell that doesn't absorb water or nutrient dies. And so this isn't happening to one cell, it's happening to tons of cells at the same time. And again, this isn't just what accelerates our pain points, it's what accelerates the aging process. So it's important to know. And the biggest and most effective concepts, the biggest things that have happened, and something that the MELT method has been founded upon, this was something that science wasn't talking about 20 years ago when I started developing the method, was that the hydration, the fluid flow, and the adaptability of fascia from microscopic to macroscopic was really the most critical component. And the hydration, that fluids in fascia, not just water, but these interstitial fluids, these proteins that attract water into the matrix, the collagen, the elastin, are really what are maintaining our cells. And so, you know, it'd be nice when we talk about cellular dehydration. Drinking water isn't enough, because if your tissue, it's kind of like a dried out sponge. If a dried out sponge, you know, a dried out sponge doesn't absorb water as well as a moist one. So you just start drinking more and all you do is go to the bathroom more. So fascia on a microscopic level, this is where it all comes down to fibroblasts, cells. It's a design, right? So that's really the important thing that people need to know, is that daily living, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here. Daily living is really the integral component of how do we maintain the architecture of fascia, is understanding how to access the supple qualities of it, the fluid matrix. And so our daily lives are kind of laying sediment down in, if you think of fascia like a river, and where the sediment loves to live is around our joints and our spaces, like our neck and our abdomen, which is why so many people have neck and low back pain. Our joints are always killing us. And those are usually the first, what I call pre-pain signals that we feel. But if you don't actively participate and learn how to restore the fluid flow of fascia through movement, through eating a better diet, through melt, it accumulates, and it's not only going to wreak havoc on your mobility of your joints, but the mobility of your transportation highway, your nutrients. And it's one of the catalysts for diseases and disorders. So I think, you're hitting the main point here, right? When you talk about cell development, you're talking about cellular repair, cellular turnover, and fascia is related to all of it. It's not just about muscles and bones. So we need to continue to broaden our understanding of fascia so that people understand why it's so critical to their health. And that's what the melt method is about. That's what I kind of spend most of my life talking about, is how to lead an active, healthy, pain-free life by tapping into the fascial system. And when your fascial system's functioning well, your nervous system works well, and what we call the autopilot, the autonomic components of stability, are going to function better, and you're going to feel good. And when you feel good, you're more resilient, life is good, and you're happy. And, if you want to lead an active life, happiness and joy is definitely at the top of the list.
Definitely, I would say. Thank you for that amazing, amazing information. And even though I've heard it before, having been through every single melt training, so I started with a hand and foot, and it was really amazing just in terms of that growth and repair. So, and what you were saying about the hydration. I think when I'd come to the melt method, so 2017, 2014, 15, I went through like a C-section, for a fibroid, had that removed, then skin cancer, had that removed on my calf. And I went through all the normal, okay, let's just get walking again. The frustration of they're telling me to walk and just do my normal activities. And it's like, but my body isn't normal. It's not responding in the same way. Stuff isn't happening. And then even simple when you go to a physio, it will be, okay, well, 50 repetitions of this exercise, and that will be great. And what I discovered from melting was, first of all, how dehydrated my system was, because even just a little bit of pressure it's like my nervous system, which was already on high alert, was like, you can't go in, not even a millimeter, just kind of like show me the ball, just nudge up against it, otherwise you're just going to put me into overload,
right?
Even more. But just doing the little bit, so like a little hand and foot, I love the way that we can go indirect and direct. And then actually over time, what's fantastic is it has an accumulative effect. So I would say in terms of growth and repair, for anybody who is in pain out there, or you're like, my body's just it's not working as I think it should be, or, I know that I've got this marathon that I want to work towards, or strength training, whatever the activity is, really knowing and establishing a great foundation. So what I love about the fascia and the connective tissue is that, and my understanding where it's at now, kind of like a number of years later, from 2017 to March kind of 2021, is actually that stability or buffer zone, I like to think about it. So you may not know Ready Break. We had a porridgey type cereal over here called Ready Break, which years ago you used to advertise, and it would advertise by seeing a person with like an orange glow around them, and when they glowed and kind of that orange pulse, it's like they had their Ready Break. So I like to think about that kind of buffer zone almost as a external of your fascia. So that kind of glow vibration where everything has a bit of give, like the fitness ball it's like there's a squishability of it, but it will spring back to reform its shape. But at the same time, if it needs to hold space for any organs or anything, it can do that. So that just wasn't happening, but accumulatively over time, then my body's ability to be able to repair and hold the space for my neck to be in a better upright position, or for me to realize that, lifting that weight or stretching that band, I've got my stretch band here, so it's like the second repetition, I'd be able to go, that's going into my neck. Oh, look, there's my head. Okay, so the bits of me that are supposed to be working, and the pattern, the ideal movement pattern in terms of how the body should be firing, and the sequencing that should happen automatically. I shouldn't have to think, hold my neck straight, keep my shoulders back, and then you've got kind of sergeant major posture. It's like the body knows how to do it, but you have to remind it and help it to be able to do that. And that's the melt method was huge. Fundamental to be able to, okay, just let's start that conversation by allowing the fluid flow. Mm-hmm. And as soon as you can use like the shearing and the gliding techniques to be able to pull the fluids to that area, then it's like that image of the cell wall that you had is like, we can wake up now and start to pay attention and not hide and have to protect because it's not nice outside my cell wall there. And then it's like, oh, now I can start to see who else is around and who are the friends and the cells that I can play with. We can have a good conversation. And from there, you then are much more body aware, more informed. We can grow. If your body and that cellular level is in a state of kind of hide, not safe, you can't grow from that.
Well, we can't connect. That's the word. You can't grow if you don't connect, right? And so remember that cell, and just remember, every cell is like a mini you living in your body. You got billions and trillions of little yous listening to your mindset. And so that's, what you're really saying is that we are all equipped with, in MELT, again, I've like trying to simplify very complex neurofascial science. I was trying to explain to my clients how the autonomic nervous system function. And I just started saying, look, it's like an autopilot, right? It is, you are equipped with systems of your body that support, protect, and stabilize you without your voluntary control or conscious awareness, period. We all know that it exists, because if it didn't, we would have to think about breathing, digesting our food, how to poop, and how to get the stuff through our large intestines so that it actually comes out the other end, right? But we have these innate systems that have one primary job, which is to keep us alive, right? That's the primary job, even when we're doing completely ridiculous things. And I'll go to the extreme. We're abusing drugs and alcohol. Get this, your body's not like, oh, that's it, I'm outie. No, you know what it does? It figures out a way to adjust and compensate just to keep you alive. And it's our job to realize that even if we're not going to those extremes, daily living plays an impact in how the autopilot functions from day to day. And most of us don't know that we can actually identify when our autopilot is functioning inefficiently, not just because we've gained weight, not just because our joints hurt, but before we have problems. I mean, wouldn't that be like the most enlightening thing, is to not wait for pain to realize that our autopilot needs our help from day to day, that daily life is accumulating stress mentally, physically, emotionally, chemically, structurally, every way you can, again, think of stability. Our whole system is impacted by it. And the autopilot is actually a very accessible, very malleable system. We in MELT, and I know you'll remember this, I always talk about our fascia and our nervous system like a superpower couple. And they're so busy, our brain and our body are so busy doing all these things that it hires a nanny called Annie, and that's our autonomic nervous system, to manage the three children in the house, the parasympathetic, sympathetic, and enteric nervous system, our stress response, our repair responses, and our gut responses. And the thing is, these kids actually are the most critical components of the household. And if the parents are always out in the world, making sure that the world thinks that they're great, we call it keeping up with the Joneses. It's the story of this, high profile family. But if you don't go into your household and check in on those kids and make sure that the kids are balanced and managing things well, it's just a matter of time when you finally show back up at your house and your house is burnt down, you're getting a divorce, you got tax evasion, like everything's gone wrong. And then you're just like, I'm in such a hole, I don't know how to get out of it. So in MELT, what we do is we give people permission to go into their bodies and sense what they feel and actually learn to tap into the subtle nuances that many of us possess, all these common little mishaps that actually most people possess that are left unaddressed from day to day, that you can identify before they cause you pain. And if you feel like you have these common imbalances, if you get rid of them, the brilliance is that you never go down the road of accumulative stress that will ultimately cause you pain or some discomfort. Like some people don't call it pain. They call it depression. They call it dis-ease. They call it disease. They call it a lackluster. You can call it whatever the heck you want. But if you don't feel resilient and you don't feel vibrant, you have an issue in your connective tissue. It is not just in your mind, right? If you have depression, it is not just a brain thing. It's a whole body thing. And we can make ourselves feel better by being connected, not only to the world around us, but to ourselves, to understand that we need to connect to ourselves on a deeper level. And when we do that, that block around that cell gets shattered and our vibration gets to emit far beyond our body's walls. And that's what fascia is. Fascia is a electrochemical, vibrational fluid system that is transmitting and vibrating information outside of us. I would be so bold to say that our fascial system is the chi of our body, that Chinese medicine and all of these other practices have actually been talking about forever. They just weren't defining it through science because we didn't have atomic force microscopy. But now that we do, it's the same thing. They had it right. We burned all the books. They burned all the books, whatever. And it's a shame because that's where it's at. And we know with acupuncture, that's why you can put a needle in somebody's shoulder and it changes how their digestive system works. So you put something in their face and all of a sudden they have a bowel movement. What is that about? It's because it's all connected. And it is a beautiful thing when we realize that when you're hearing us talk about this, that what we're trying to do is desperately connect to you. We're connecting to you because we're part of the process of transformation, that in me sharing it with you, I get to transform, and together we get to make something that is life, right? That's beautiful and that's joyful. And when you're in pain, it's very isolating. Your world gets awfully small. You suddenly are by yourself. And we're here to tell you that if you're not feeling vibrant, you're not alone. Like hundreds of millions of people worldwide feel the same way. And the way to get out of it is to connect. And that's how you grow. That's how you learn. That's how you become a more, you just embody your human experience and you just become one with the universe. You remove duality and you have oneness. And I think it's a huge concept, but really fascia is the one thing. If we have one thing that's in common, is that we all have this system that needs our help. And when you help it, you will realize your vibration will be different and you'll connect to people and embrace the human experience without so much pain and trauma.
Thank you. That was eloquently, passionately, and excitingly said. So
thanks.
Thank you very much. The other thing that I think is important is I also mentioned about the idea of strength. And one of the things that blew me away was when we talk about strength. When I learned about this, it's like muscle strength. I can pick up that phone easily, give me that 5 kilogram weight, and I'll find a way of doing it. And then it's like, well, I'll take your muscle strength and I will raise you with a little bit of fascia. And the tensile strength of fascia is like phenomenal. And I was like, what? Yeah. So it would be great if you could speak a bit about that idea of strength, and also strength in relation to, particularly if you're an athlete or young person wanting to perform, a different way compared to the kind of old fitness model to think about strength and resilience. So the other thing, coming from a dance background for myself, it's like, well, once you kind of get to your mid-20s into the 30s, it's like a dance career, it's only worth so long. Same in terms of high athletes. And it's like, well, if you look after that suit and you learn that what it needs to grow and repair and to kind of get those neural pathways, it's like strength is different. And then, like you say, there doesn't have to be it's only for the young people. And when you hit your 30s, that's it, say goodbye.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm 50 and I feel like I'm actually stronger in every possible way than I was when I was 11% body fat and, was made the cover of Muscle and Fitness magazine and was uber into the fitness realm. So here's the thing, when we talk about strength, what's the opposite of strength is weakness. And the thing about weakness is that weakness and strength have less to do with your muscles than you think. It actually has a lot to do with how your nervous system and what's called sensory motor control is operating, right? So your brain doesn't know about muscles. In fact, your brain just thinks you have one big muscle, and when you want to move, it just ignites a particular amount of motor neurons, and those motor neurons make the action happen, right? So the real important component that I think everyone needs to remember is, if what you want to do is move well, stability is required for mobility, right? You can't just load a body, right? If I had an unstable old person saying, hey, I want to feel more upright, I'm not going to put them on a Bosu ball and have them do bicep curls, because you take an unstable body on an unstable surface, that doesn't improve stability. It's a big lie, right? You actually teach people how to become a stronger, more dysfunctional body. So in the second book that I wrote, this one right here, was Melt Performance. And what we did was we took the pain conversation that I talked about in the Melt book, and we brought it into the concepts of repetition. And so repetition is the blessing and curse of athletic performance. And what oftentimes happens with fascia is, when fascia becomes cellularly dehydrated, if it becomes too stiff or it loses its stiff to elastic properties, it is the catalyst for neurological inhibition. And what I mean by that is that your brain tries to send a message to ignite certain motor neurons. And if the fascia is like a block inhibiting that reaction, you don't not move. You move, your body just starts to compensate, right, as you move, and you don't even know it's happening. And that's why so many athletes hit a plateau. They don't want to admit that they have hit a plateau, right? But they've kind of like, they're practicing and repeating the same drills, and they're not seeing improvement. So what do? They train harder. And that's the problem. We want to teach people how to not train harder, but to train smarter, right? To actually unblock those neural pathways and reintegrate the timing of the deep stabilizing mechanisms that are involuntary, and to actually consciously access these involuntary components of stability and get them back online. And again, that's what you learn in this one, is the 4 hours of Melt, reconnect, rebalance, rehydrate, and release. And in Melt Performance, you learn how to neurologically reintegrate and repattern these neurological pathways of stabilization. And here's the thing everybody just needs to know, is that if you're stable, you don't think about stability. In fact, you don't think about moving. You just get up to do that thing, and your brain kind of knows how you're going to move, and it anticipates how you want to move. But here's the big thing. Fascia knows you even better than your nervous system does, and it anticipates your movement and pre-stresses the tissue so that certain muscles can contract. But again, if the fascia is in a dysfunctional state, what we call stuck stress is blocking the pathways, you're moving, it's not stable. And that's how athletes get injured. That's how they lose all their short-term gains. They get repetitive stress injuries. And it doesn't really matter what your sport is or what your repetition is in your daily life. Repetition is the blessing and curse of how we perceive, act, and learn, and take information in and connect. So if you want to prolong your vibrancy, again, your joint mobility, how you feel, then once again, fascia is also helping your autopilot, your autonomic nervous system, function in a way that keeps the system stable, and so that you get more accurate performance. Your joint centralization is there, and you're going to feel better because your body's going to move with ease. And that's what we want. We want a body that moves with fluidity and cohesiveness. And if the theory of ideal alignment is that when all the joints align at their centers, you're going to have minimal compression at any one joint, so that no one joint ever yields the demand of any movement, well, what provides that synergy is your fascia. So if you want to maintain your dance career or your athletic performance in your 70s and 80s and 90s, then you don't need to train harder. You just need to hydrate your tissue. and give your autopilot a little bit of support from day to day. Tune into the system, know when it needs your help, actually identify the common flaws of it before it causes you pain, and eliminate it, and you'll start feeling better. And I think that's the beauty of melt, is that, you know, in just 10 minutes a day, because the fascia is this 3-dimensional matrix, if you learn how to treat it in a very gentle, specific way, the whole system reacts and responds, and you just start feeling better. It's kind of a phenomenal thing, but it works.
Yeah, and it is that even strain distribution. So if you are then going to, you know, if weightlifting or weights, or you're training for a particular event, then you can actually, you know, do that training and not have to hammer your body. I was trying to think, it's just like, you can either work with your body to grow and build that strength and the resilience, or you can kind of like fight against it. And what the other thing that I love about the melt is its ability to help you reconnect in so many different ways. So the more kind of like body conscious and just internally aware you are, then it means you can then choose. It's like, if you, nobody gives you a handbook and says this is how to become a parent. It's just like, well, here's some inspiration and some ideas of, here's a handbook of how to live in your body effectively and move with ease. And, you know, if you are in pain, get out of pain. And, you know, yes, whilst there are practitioners like myself who can lead you through melts, all of Sue's on demand, all the people like me that she's trained across, not just the melt with a soft roller, and to be able to then do it for yourself. So it's like, I've spent ages kind of accumulating all the knowledge that I have in how to help people. And it's like, yeah, I can give you a massage and I can fix you, but I'm much more passionate about, let me educate you. And it's like, if you want to do Pilates and learn more about the what and the why and the how and the, well, why am I always feeling like that? Come to me and I will help educate you. If you just want to do it and then just be done with it, then we're not the people for you to kind of like see, because we want you to be able to manage yourself. It's about being self-efficient, self-proactive. It's like 20% we can do, the other 60% self-responsibility is we can kind of hand over to you, so that you can kind of be the best version of yourself that you want to be, so that you can learn to grow and repair and listen to, is today going to be that hard workout training, things firing online so that I can do that strength work? Or is there so much excess stress because COVID's hit, because so-and-so's unwell, I'm moving house, the boss has just dumped this whole load of extra work, whatever that extra stresses are, maybe it's that you need to do something to help the body restore more. But the melt or yoga, whatever it is you do to tune in, you'll be able to, again, work with the body. And I think for me, that 10 minutes, it's simple, it's effective, it's easy. There are no difficult moves to do. You feel it. It might be like, oh, that's a bit too intense for my body. And the key is in the attention to detail of how you move. You know, if you've got that brick and that dried out sponge, then just like a hair's distance of pressure will feel like somebody's thrown a brick into your world. So it's like, you just ease and slow and steady, and then just back off. You don't have to pound away to kind of create the fluid flow. Less is more. And then again, with a light touch, somebody could get hands on and do it, but you then end up spending more money. Or
just don't be a victim to your therapist, right? I mean, that was the whole goal for me, right? Get my clients out of my office so I could go see more people and learn more. I didn't want to work on the same people all the time. We don't want to work on you all the time. We want you to go home and do it and then feel awesome, and then just come back to us like when you need like a little spot check, or you want to tune in a little bit, or you just want the connection with somebody else. That's really the secret, right? Is that we have it in us to feel better. But having a community on top of being able to have the tools, that's what really makes the beauty of it. And that's why we're all connected. I mean, that's what the Melt community and the tribe is all about. And it's not just a method, it's a way of life. It's a lifestyle choice.
Yeah. And so I know I'm going to be putting up some details for if you want to know some more. So if people want to find out more about you, kind of what you're up to, or just be able to use the melt method for themselves, or they're like, I'm really interested in what she's had to say about learning about the body, how do they do that?
Well, I would tell them to first go to meltmethod.com. You can find out all about our streaming platform, Melt on Demand, and you can try a 7-day free trial. I've even just launched a 7-day free trial that doesn't even use the products, just uses a towel. So you can actually experience some of the techniques just with a towel. I also have teacher trainings, and I'm very active on Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn. So you can find us everywhere. Just type Melt Method into Google and we're there for you.
Thank you. And then what I will also do is put up a link to Sue's details at the end of the video. So you don't have to hunt, you can just kind of literally go copy that down and then click, and then you'll be through. So perfect. Fantastic. So hopefully today you've learned loads on growth, repair and strength in ways that you never knew were possible, or more in depth than you did before. Sue, thank you ever so much for your time today. It's been really fantastic to reconnect again, and love your passion that you bring and your enthusiasm.
I love you right back, and I'm so happy you're part of the tribe, and thanks for asking me to share my knowledge with your community. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm just going to stop that.